Hey guys, welcome everybody to today's webinar. Today we're doing a special session. We have some guests with us as well. We have some people actually from the MyCrypto team, and I think most people, and give a quick one into the question box if you've used MyCrypto before. I'm sure you've heard of it. If you've heard of My Ether Wallet, then I'm sure you've heard of MyCrypto, and we'll kind of get into a few things, but it's a very exciting session today because we're going to be talking about something that we've been working on for a pretty long time, and that, in our opinion, is quite innovative and is going to kind of change the way that Ethereum is being used and what it can be used for. And Peter, actually from the team, is going to go through a lot of those use cases. So I want to welcome everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and give it straight away to Peter and Logan from our team. We also have Connor from MyCrypto, and yeah, we're looking forward to this webinar. Peter, thank you so much for being here. Are you ready to kick this off?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So hello everyone. As Eric said, this is a special webinar for us, special live stream. So let's just go forward and yeah, just a quick plan. So we're gonna talk. We're gonna introduce ourselves. So we have a Connor. He's gonna introduce himself. We're gonna take a look at MyCrypto. We're gonna spend quite a lot of time on scheduling use cases. We get deep into on how we want to use the Ethereum Alarm Clock. We want to show you what are the potential use cases, and we absolutely excited about that. Then we're gonna jump on some quick development updates. We're gonna show you the demo. Joseph's gonna show you how to use MyCrypto Wallet to schedule transactions. We're gonna talk a little bit about the time nodes as well. So yeah, Connor, welcome. Could you just introduce yourself you know so our community knows who you are, where you work, what you do?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for the introduction, everybody. So my name's Connor. I am the new principal architect for MyCrypto. I have been in this position now for a couple of months. I've been fortunate enough to be able to meet with the team. Our company is 100% remote, so that brings its own set of challenges. But all in all, I'm super excited to be a part of the team, for sure. And I'm super excited to be a part of this broadcast today to be able to show off this neat new feature we have on our wallet.
Yeah, awesome. So hey, welcome. Just it's great to have you. Yeah, so now we're looking at MyCrypto current, side. So, for us, for our team, is essentially that's like number one in the Ethereum wallet. So we love it. We use it on a daily basis. Especially now, we also work with you to bring the scheduling. We call it send later functionality. But could you tell us a little bit more about, MyCrypto wallets, how you work, a little bit background on how you get there?
Absolutely. Yes. So we're super glad to hear that you like our product for sure. Our product started off integrated with My Ether Wallet, back in the day. And some things happened since then. And now we've spun off into our own company. And we're really trying to establish ourselves as a pinnacle and a paragon as far as a wallet and similar functionality in the Ethereum ecosystem. Our primary core product is indeed a wallet. We pride ourselves on being early to the scene on new security standards. We were among the first to remove the ability to log in via private key online, for example. But more than just a wallet, we are striving to become a platform encompassing a database that maintains a list of all known scams, a knowledge base to allow people to really learn how to use the different products and the ecosystem in general, and along with tools related to Ethereum and other tokens and coins as well. So we're trying to extend from just being a wallet to a platform, and definitely the integration with ChronoLogic is helping us to achieve that goal.
Yeah, thank you. Great to hear. So yeah, we just love what you guys doing. As the foremost things that are really important is security, and we know how it's like in the past. There's a lot of scams, a lot of phishing attempts, and all this kind of bad behavior. Because obviously we talking about crypto. that actually have some value. That's why it's so popular, and people, don't really, they're not really always like really careful, and just leads to some, sometimes really tragic things. Okay, thank you. So I think we now ready to talk about the scheduling use cases. So guys, yeah, bear with me. Let's start. And I think that's, ICO contribution. That's kind of the thing that with whoever we talk about the Ethereum alarm clock and potential use cases, there was like always like 99% of things. The first idea that came to people's mind is the ICO contributions. So just to make sure, guys, tell me if you ever, participated in any ICOs. Please put any, big ICOs, small ICOs, whatever, the projects that you backed up, in the past. So we really curious. We do that, in the past as well. And if you been a contributor, right, you might get into some like problems, right? Because I do remember as myself tried once to get into an ICO. It was actually basic attention token, right? But unfortunately at that time I was somewhere out, I think in the city or somewhere, so I couldn't really be at next to my computer to send a transaction. So that really kind of was a bad, and it turns out that this whole contribution takes like few minutes, right? This slide also you can see like Aragon, status and Gnosis. This is like crazy. They just get so fast. So if you didn't really be ready for to contribute, you definitely miss it out, right? So that's basically the problems, right? These are the problems that kind of without scheduling, they really like it's really hard to get into this kind of contributions. So we said like yes, so how can we actually solve it? And essentially with the scheduling, it's fairly simple, because how the scheduling works is that just before anything know when it happens, you prepare yourself, you prepare the transaction, you put the date on what time it should get be executed. So yeah, it's essentially like automation, and it really helps and smooths out the experience. So yeah, the another question, because obviously the one that I just miss out because I was somewhere else. But guys, I think we are like multinational, like worldwide crowd at this live stream. So tell me, guys, where do you live? What kind of countries are you in? Because I expect there will be like many different countries all around the world. So yeah, I'm not mistaken. I see like, okay, awesome. I see like, South America, North America, Europe, Asia, so yeah, essentially we from everywhere, right? So guys, how the thing works. So in order to organize the time around the world, there is a concept of time zones. All right, okay. So this is not as easy as it might get, I think. And very often, especially when as we live in Europe, I live in Europe, but things happen in Asia or maybe like in US or something. And then if there is like a huge time difference, then always very often these ICOs happen in time that actually makes me, to just wake up like in the middle of the night, just to try get into that step. So this is absolutely non-convenient. And again, another thing that is enabled by Ethereum Alarm Clock is that now it's really time independent. So you time zone independent at the moment. So I think that's really cool and neat feature for that. Okay, let's jump actually to slightly something else from the ICOs. Now we're talking about the trust fund. So for those who don't know, the trust fund is essentially a idea that you can save, some value and transfer to someone else, but you set up some sort of limitations. Let's say some action might need to happen in the future, or maybe just some amount of time should pass. Okay. So I don't know about you, but I do actually have a family, right? And I'm also in a crypto for quite a long. So what I'm doing essentially, because we are the believers in cryptocurrency. So what I do is actually I'm just put some savings, so in crypto, just into the future. So we kind of figure out this use case, and we very like it. I honestly very like it. I like it very much. So the idea is that you can schedule every month some amount of Ether. Depends on how much you want to actually save and put aside. Might be 1 to 5, whatever. But the idea is that you just schedule them in a far away into the future, and then you can buy like a hardware wallet for your kids or whatever. But then you put your transaction so they actually can get them like in the future, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 1 year, whatever the time horizon is important for you, right? We think that's kind of really good. And the one thing that can't really be very important is that if you lock up those funds on the scheduled transaction, then essentially you are immune from your privately key loss. So you can see this as a really safe way of transferring and time locking essentially your funds, so they can be redeemed in the future. So that's definitely, as far as I am concerned, that's #1 feature for me in the Ethereum Alarm Clock, and I'm just super happy, and definitely gonna set this up and maybe put some blog posts around it or something like this. We'll see. Yeah. So trust fund is essentially a time locked vault, right? And here, this is my other colleagues just came out with this case, and I like it very much. So tell me, guys, if you are actually a hodler. So give me one if you are the hodlers. I think it's really very important. Yeah. Okay. Cool. We have yeah. Obviously. Yeah. Nice. So the idea is that if you wanna use Ethereum Alarm Clock as a kind of extreme hodler's vault, as we label it, you put some, you schedule some money to yourself, some value, Ether or tokens into the near future, right? Might be 1 month, might be something like 2 weeks, and then essentially you can burn your private keys, so you can't really get out those tokens and and Ether before this time period will pass. And we might see like how it is actually connected with hodling. It's for us, it's quite simple. We know quite a lot of people, especially in the times where it's not the best time in crypto, right? Everyone knows we are in the bear market, so many people just kind of lose their belief into cryptocurrencies, and with a shaky hands, additionally, you might just sell off, right? And usually these people sell off in the worst possible case. So you can actually kind of protect yourself from just going out by using, for instance, Ethereum Alarm Clock and the time lock vault. So very similar to the trust fund, but yet kind of different, because here you intentionally burn your private key, so you can't really get them anyways. But because you can't get them, you can't really sell. So hope you like it. All right, so yeah, we get into the crypto assets and savings and holding. So just guys, let me know if you know the Shapeshift. I think they are like forever. I don't know. It's one of these like exchanges that are very simple, very easy to use. And when I get into cryptos, people said like, yeah, use Shapeshift. You use Shapeshift. You can do everything there. Okay, so we as users of this kind of software, we kind of find out a very neat feature. It's actually called the reusable addresses, and then some of you might already say like, clicking, that, okay, how can we use it, right? So it's fairly simple. You can go today to the Shapeshift, set up the reusable address, put some sort of conversion that you're interested in. Let's say we want to swap Ether to Bitcoin, right? It's okay. So yeah, you set up your destination address for Bitcoin and refund address. And next thing what you want to do, you want to schedule every month some amount of Ether. And essentially here, what's the effect would be, the outcome would be that your Ether is going to be transferred to Bitcoin account that you designated on the price that is currently on the market, right? So I think this is cool, and it actually helps to diversify your portfolio quite easily as well. Yeah, that's one of the cool things what we figure. And yeah, the another one is Bittrex is slightly different context. So Bittrex is centralized exchange, but you can essentially do the same thing as on Shapeshift. So if you have an account and you just can set up something like auto sell, which means that any available pairs between BTC, so Ether or ERC20, can be automatically sold. You just need to read and how does this work, and that's essentially same story. You schedule, let's say on a monthly basis, some amount of Ether or tokens, and you want to exchange to BTC. Maybe in the future they're gonna do something like an auto sell to USD, USDT, something like that. Who knows? Yeah, so we speak a little bit about the exchanges, right? So I bet at least once during this year and last year, you actually heard about the hacks. So this is absolutely like thing that is happening in our space. Also, I think Connor can says like it's same thing like phishing on a wallet. Like MyEther wallet has had issues, other wallets as well. People are try to get between you and and your essentially crypto, and that's things happen to exchanges. So as as I found on ccn.com, apparently there is over 700 million lost, stolen from crypto exchanges this year alone. This is like crazy, guys. So a lot of money. And so one of the exchanges, the centralized exchanges, we very like the idea of this is ForkDelta. So guys, let me know if you ever use ForkDelta or EtherDelta. I'm really curious if we have some users here. Okay. All right, I see. Nice. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, we have some crypto traders. Yep. Nice. Okay, so you might be familiar with this kind of mechanics of ForkDelta. So what you really need to do before you do any trading, you need to deposit some Ether or tokens that you want to trade, right? So what about like, the ForkDelta, EtherDelta, I think both been actually hacked. And the idea here is that we can really improve and automate, kind of have more of the security, extra security feature by using Ethereum Alarm Clock, because you can schedule periodical withdrawals from your account. And I would say that's very, should sounds very familiar to people, especially that are involved in the day trading, which means that the idea is that you keep your positions and orders open, but if you just close the day, you close everything usually, and you might want to also withdraw funds, especially in the centralized exchanges, because it might be hacked over the night, right? So there is nothing really between now that you can't really do with Ethereum Alarm Clock. So let's say you want to do withdrawals every midnight, every night, and that's perfectly doable with Ethereum Alarm Clock. So we also definitely gonna check this out in the field. Okay, I think the last use case that I'm gonna present here for you is, the idea of Toke Investing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this term, so just gonna bring this up. It's essentially vesting is a a kind of the safety feature for the token holders that might participate into the ICO, and essentially the early investors like a seed fund or like pre-ICO investors or team or whoever who is close to the project, usually have their tokens vested. Vested means that they can move them, but actually in somewhere in the future. Sometimes it's like weeks, months, or even years, right? So here, what's our proposal is that you can go and set up a automatic move for your vested tokens when the vesting period has over. So this is also a nice feature, especially for those who are into investments and maybe are in the teams that are after the ICO and getting paid and have some tokens vested. So speaking of the paying the rent, I like to bring Logan here, so I can take a small rest. So Logan, can you show us and explain what's the pay? How can you pay rent, and how the Ethereum Alarm Clock can contribute to that?
Yep, sure can. Hey everyone. Thanks for being here. So before I go into a few more of the use cases, I see that there's some new people. So if you're new to the ChronoLogic live stream, could you put a 1 in the chat? And if you've been to the live stream before, could you put a 2? Cool. Awesome. I see a good mix of 1s and 2s. Awesome. Cool. So I'll go into some more of the use cases that you can use the Ethereum Alarm Clock for. So this one here is paying your rent. So for example, I can talk about this personally because I'm moving into a new apartment soon. And I hold crypto, and I would like to pay my rent in crypto if I can. And so I was looking around for ways to do this. And it turns out there's some services online which will act as fiat gateways on your behalf. So you can send crypto to these services, and they'll transfer it into fiat and pay your bills for you on your behalf. So there's a few different ones of these. I'll walk through each of them in a minute, but essentially how they work with the alarm clock is that if you have a rent payment or any kind of bill payment that will recur at set intervals, you can use the alarm clock to schedule those payments. And once you schedule those payments, you can just sit back and not have to worry about it, because those payments will be executed by the time nodes and sent to whoever you've got to pay a bill to when your rent is due or when the bill is due. So it's a really convenient way to pay your rent. Right now, it's mostly using Ether, but we hope to see the DAI stablecoin become more adopted by these fiat gateways. And if you don't know about the DAI stablecoin, you can check out one of our webinars that we did last Tuesday, where we talked about our integrations with DAI with a MakerDAO developer. So if you're paying your rent with Ether, a great website is called Living Room of Satoshi. And so it only works in Australia, but if you live in Australia, it's really convenient. Another one is Bittrade, works in a similar way, lets you pay your bills. And the final one is inpay.pl. So right now, it looks like they accept crypto. Ether, it looks like is maybe temporarily not being taken, but they have the button available so that at some point you'll be able to use this service with Ether and the Ethereum Alarm Clock.
Guys, hold on. I think unfortunately something is like going south with my PowerPoint, so just give me a second. I'm gonna try to restart it, okay?
No worries. So I see Kenny asks if I plan on paying my rent with the EAC. Let's see. Yeah, let's see if it'll work. So the Living Room with Satoshi, or the Living Room of Satoshi service, is only in Australia. And unfortunately, my apartment won't be in Australia, so I'll have to find something that works where I'll be. But if I can find something, yeah, that'd be great. So I guess I can share my slides.
All right, I think we just fine now.
Okay.
All right. Sorry for that, guys. Yeah.
Okay.
Continue.
So the next use case is with business or payments. So if anyone has ever been paid with crypto, could you put a 1 in the chat, or maybe say what you did that you got paid for in crypto if you feel comfortable telling us that. one thing I can tell everyone on this call is that so ChronoLogic pays people in crypto, so I get paid in crypto myself. And I know a few other projects in the space that do this. One of them being Aragon, and probably Maker with the stablecoin as well. So a lot of times it'll be really taxing for someone to manually send all of these transactions if they have many people they have to pay with crypto. And using the alarm clock, they can pay salaries ahead of time and not have to worry about manually sending each transaction to each address on the first of every month, for example. So this is cool because for both parties because it's a lot more convenient for the person paying, and for the person receiving the payment, they can see that the funds are available ahead of time, so they know that the work they'll do, the work that they are doing, they'll get compensated for. Another use case is with the multi-signature wallets. So we have a picture here of the Gnosis multisig. If you're not sure what a multisig is, it's essentially a wallet that requires it's a wallet owned by more than one person usually, and it requires more than one person to sign off on all the transactions. So an example is me, Piotr, and Joseph could all have a multi-sig wallet, and it requires two of us to always approve any transaction that goes through it. So so I travel often, and a lot of times I'm not available right away. And so if there's an important transaction that needs to go through, and I know when it needs to go through, I can schedule that approval to the multi-sig ahead of time, and that way I won't be the blocker for the multi-sig. So that works with both sending approvals and executing transactions through the multi-sig, as well as creating the proposals that other people will approve themselves. This next use case I'm pretty excited about because I think it's a good synergy between projects. So how many people have used the Ethereum name service or know what the Ethereum name service is? Could you put a 1 in the chat?
I can tell you actually that, been at Ethis last week, and to be honest, I have a couple of the business cards from the people that are actually in the different projects, and I see that some of them actually already bought their domains. So it's definitely really cool feature. So yeah, I'm really excited about that as well.
Yeah, yep. So for those of you that don't know what it is, it's so it's kind of like the domain name system on the web. So mywebsite.com, for example, where you register a .com or a .net, but you can register it on the Ethereum blockchain, and it's a .eth. So Piotr was saying that he's seen business cards now where people are listing their ENS .eth name on the business card instead of the .com, for example, or a domain on the web. So you might be wondering how you can use the Ethereum Alarm Clock with this, and the way you can use it is the ENS to buy a name requires actually a 3-step process where you have to send transactions multiple times, and these transactions are spaced out over the span of a week. So So the first two transactions are the commit reveal. This is because the ENS uses a second price auction to auction off the names. But if you're buying a name for personal use, you don't really need to worry about the second price auction, and you can just schedule the reveal transaction at the same time as the commit, so that you don't have to come back in 2 days and remember to reveal your bid. So I know from personal experience, I've tried to register ENS names before and have forgotten to come back in 2 days, and so have lost the money I sent for my bid because I didn't reveal. So and it's not because anyone else outbid me. No one else bid on the name. I just forgot to come back. So uh, yeah, I should have. I wish I had the Ethereum alarm clock at that time. So so some of you might remember a few months ago that the Ethereum network was getting clogged with transactions and gas prices were going really high, and everybody was wondering what was the reason. And it turns out that the culprit was these virtual cats called CryptoKitties. So CryptoKitties is a game on Ethereum, and you play it by buying cats and breeding cats and auctioning the cats that get made. So there's a kind of an interesting story for this one where there's this woman in Korea who, when she was young, always wanted to be a Pokemon trainer, and grew up and was always just dreaming about being a Pokemon trainer, but could never get the chance because Pokemons don't actually exist. But then CryptoKitties came along, and she was able to kind of realize her dream of being a Pokemon trainer through breeding cats. And she was actually so successful at breeding cats that she was able to become a professional cat breeder, a professional crypto kitty breeder, to be exact. And she was able to actually make money breeding crypto kitties. So the Ethereum alarm clock can be used here because you're sending a lot of transactions to the game, some of which can be automated, such as the auctioning of the cats or the breeding of the cats. So there's a cooldown that you can only breed cats every so often, and if you wanted to, you could just schedule transactions to breed cats after every cooldown. And the final use case that I'll cover here is the one of gambling. So gambling isn't actually a use case that we endorse, but we know that a lot of people, a lot of the volume on Ethereum is gambling or using a gambling application. So if you'd like, you could use the alarm clock to gamble as well. And if you want to, you could actually use it to help you stop gambling too. So I'll go into the first example. You could use the alarm clock to schedule out all of your dice rolls for a dice rolling application, and then just sit back and wait for the results. Or if you wanted to kind of limit your gambling, you could move all of your gambling funds into a wallet and then schedule a transaction to block those funds for 24 hours or 48 hours. And then you could gamble using these funds, and then when the transaction is scheduled to be executed, it'll lock the funds and you have to stop gambling. So could be used in that way as well.
All right, thank you, Logan. So that was, the use case section, and now let's jump straight into MyCrypto So Joseph, are you here?
Hey Peter, I'm here. Thanks for the introduction.
Okay,
we can just go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So let me.
If you can allow me to.
Yeah, Yep. Here you are. Yeah, Joseph, the presenter.
Okay. Okay, guys. Hey, welcome again. Thanks for attending the webinar. So now I'll be demoing some of the functionality that we have included within the MyCrypto wallet. This functionality will soon be released to the mainnet. Currently, it's still on Coven, but I'll be presenting from one of the latest builds that we have that is functioning with the mainnet release. So we have Connor here with us. Connor has been working hard with us to kind of push this towards the mainnet. Thanks again for that. And let's jump straight into the demo. So once you go to mycrypto.com, you are presented with a screen that looks kind of like this, right? So first you have to select which type of wallet you would like to schedule a transaction with. So in my case, I will be using MetaMask because it is the most convenient way for me to schedule transactions at this point. So what we do here is we have this button, send later, and this is something that we have added to the main view and send screen on MyCrypto. So what I will do today as demo just a small part of the functionality that we have added. So basically I will schedule a transaction to myself. So I will copy my own address, paste it here. It is giving me a warning here that I'm sending it to myself, but I'm sure I want to do that. Let's send maybe like 0.05 ETH. And the main part we have here is the send later button. I'm pretty sure some of you guys have already seen it on previous webinars, but we will go through the functionality again because we have some new cool things and widgets added to this. So when I press the send later button, we are presented with the schedule transaction settings. So in these settings, we can choose all the properties of the scheduled transaction. So what I would do now is set up the date and time of my scheduled transaction. So we will use September 14th, and let's schedule it 1 hour ahead of my current time. My current time zone is Europe, let's say Europe, Berlin. And so this time zone selector is pretty useful for ICOs because you can specifically select the time zone in which the ICO is and the time at which the ICO is, right? So you don't have to really do any time zone conversions or anything. You can just schedule it straight away here from these selectors. So here we choose a window. This is a range of minutes during which the transaction may be executed. I will put a range of 20 minutes. So starting from this time, there will be a time window of 20 minutes within which the time nodes can execute the scheduled transaction. Okay, so now we get to the main part, which is the incentivization mechanism for in the Ethereum Alarm Clock. So we have on the left-hand side, we have the time bounty, and the time bounty basically shows the amount of ETH that the time nodes will get in exchange for executing this transaction. So let's leave it at $4. So as we select here, you can see that there is an estimator here that will estimate kind of how much that is in dollars, and let's leave it at 0.02. You can also select your own any other value that you wish, but let's leave it at 0.02. So the other field we have here is require deposit. So we would use this field to require a deposit from the Timenode when the Timenode wants to claim this transaction. So if a Timenode says, okay, I will execute this transaction at the exact time that it has to be executed, the Timenode will have to push a small deposit and this is in Ether, so 0.04 Ether. So the Timenode will have to deposit 0.02 Ether into this smart contract of the scheduled transaction, and in case it does not execute this transaction, it will lose this deposit. So we use this kind of as like an insurance that the Timenode will indeed execute this transaction. So once we have these parameters in place, we choose the minimum future gas price, and we select the gas limit. This is of the future transaction that will transpire. So once we have all of this set, we are ready to schedule this transaction. As we can see, we have this button, schedule transaction. I will run this. It says, okay, please confirm this transaction from to the contract, and we have this transaction. It says $16. I will confirm it, and we have the confirmation. So the transaction has been broadcast to the network. It is now waiting to be mined, and we have the transaction hash here. And so what we have done is we have added this button that says check on Chronos. And Chronos, in our Chronos app on app.chronologic.network, you can see all the different properties of these scheduled transactions. So what we will do now is we'll press this button and see where it takes us. So as we can see, it has taken us to app.chronologic.network, and it's waiting to be mined. So while we're waiting to be mined, maybe Connor, maybe you can jump in and tell us a little bit about some of the features of this window, and maybe some future plans around it.
I'm sorry, future plans for which window in particular?
Well, just in general for the scheduling functionality, just just anything that you would like to add here.
Oh, sure, of course. So one of the big efforts that's ongoing at MyCrypto, especially picking up steam recently, is an overhaul of how we handle our UI elements. We're working with an extremely talented designer. Her name is Avani Miriala, and she's provided us with some excellent mock-ups for stuff that we're excited to implement. So other than small quality of life changes that I'm sure we'll be implementing over time, the only thing you can expect to change, fairly significantly is going to be the appearance of a lot of these fields. Some of them might adapt to fit with our new modern scheme, but other than that, we were definitely very, comfortable with the development skills of the contributors to the project. So functionality-wise, we'll be implementing any additional functionality that they come out with for their excellent Ethereum Alarm Clock. But from our end, you're probably only going to see UI changes for this particular functionality.
Perfect, Connor. Thanks for the explanation and all this. So let's see if our transaction got mined, and we see that it has indeed been mined, and we can see that the status has been set to schedule. We see all of our details, the time of execution. We see the window size, the gas price that will be used, the time bounty that will be awarded to any Timenode that might execute this transaction, and the deposit that is required from the Timenode. And we can see that this transaction has been scheduled to send this amount of Ether to this address, which in this case is my own address. So that's it basically for the demo. We think it's pretty simple to schedule these transactions. Hopefully you guys agree, and you can start basically as soon as we get AOK from MyCrypto with the release. With the upcoming release, you'll be able to schedule all of this on the mainnet. So given that, I'll give it up to Logan for the rest of the presentation. Thanks.
Thanks, Joseph. So as Joseph mentions, this will be available in the next release of MyCrypto, and it'll allow you to begin scheduling transactions on the mainnet. So what I'll do now is I'll show you guys how to run a Timenode, but first I will talk about some of the future use cases that we're going to see in the near term that we're hoping will pick up steam to make the alarm clock something that is used widely. So can you guys see my slides? could you put a 1 in the chat if you see my slides? Okay, great, cool. Right here. Oops. All right, so I'll talk about some of the things we'll see in the near future, near to medium term future. One of the things that has been a work in progress for a while, and Piotr has been part of the working group, has been the subscription standard. So I'll talk about that a little bit, and then I'll go into the token allocator as well as using the alarm clock for some interesting analysis, and then I'll talk about the developer ecosystem. So the subscription standard is split between or is composed of two EIPs/ERCs. The first is the ERC 948, and the more recent one is the EIP 1337. And one of the proposals for these subscription standards is to use the alarm clock on the back end to handle all of the recurring payments and all of the recurring subscriptions. So similar to all of the use cases we talked about before, except this would standardize the interface so that from a user perspective, you can easily start subscribing to a service, and service providers can easily open up subscriptions to users. And this would potentially use the alarm clock and bring a lot of transaction volume to the alarm clock, which of course would be a good thing for time nodes, since they're the ones that are executing and receiving the bounty. Another thing that has been worked on at ChronoLogic, mostly from Anthony/Autoboss03, who unfortunately couldn't be here, but he's been working hard on getting this token allocator working. And what it is a way for a group of people to split tokens in a trustless way. And it's meant to be interoperable with the alarm clock as kind of like a first class use case. So it also allows if there's a wallet, a vesting wallet, where tokens are being vested to, you can vest the tokens to the token allocator, and using the alarm clock, you can schedule calls to release these tokens at the whatever time these tokens are available, and then to distribute those tokens among the participants automatically. So this has been deployed and is being used in production by the advisory of OneLedger, and they're using it to do some of the vesting and distributing of the tokens. It's also being developed open source. You can find it on the ChronoLogic/token-allocation-distributor repository. Another thing that we might start seeing that could be interesting from a data analysis viewpoint is just using these scheduled transactions to make conclusions about sentiment and intent of the users. So one of the big ones is ICO contributions. So if you see a lot of people scheduling transactions to being sent to a certain ICO, you can see how many participants are essentially pre-committing to their contributions, and you can also see how much each participant is contributing. And depending on these pre-commits, you can either for yourself choose to contribute to the ICO too, or maybe you think there's it's already too many people and you choose to contribute to another ICO. But either way, you have this new interesting way to help you make a decision about what you choose to do. A kind of a different thing is that the scheduled transactions, every time a user schedules a transaction, he inputs the gas price. So you can look at the scheduled transactions for a specific point in time in the future. So let's say, for example, 100 blocks in the future. So if it's block 5 million now, let's look at all the scheduled transactions at block 5,000,100 and see what they've inputted as their gas price. And we can kind of see the sentiment around what people think the gas price will be. So what people think the network state, how many transactions will be in the network. Will the transactions, if the transactions have a high gas price, you can see that people are kind of anticipating that a lot of people will be sending transactions. So the network might be getting clogged or something else. And just in general, you can use the scheduled transactions to see the popularity of contracts. You can see the popularity of what's being scheduled and what calls to what contracts are being made. I think for me, one of the most exciting things might be the developer ecosystem that we will see develop around the Ethereum Alarm Clock. So now that the Ethereum Alarm Clock has support in MyCrypto and with the ChronoLogic app and is deployed to the mainnet, and it has all of these JavaScript tools for developers. Basically, it's all set for developers to start using it, start building with it, make interesting applications with it. And so they can do these integrations in their own smart contracts, or they could do it on the client side using JavaScript. An interesting thing that we might see is that dApps might have their users input the transactions that they want scheduled, and then give their users back the data field that the data that they will take to MyCrypto and input into the data field. So that, for example, like if the dApp doesn't want to handle security around the wallets, they can use the security of MyCrypto instead. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more ideas that people have. And if anyone has any ideas, feel free to put them in the question box and we'll read a few of those out if we see some interesting ideas there. So next I'll hand it off to Joseph, who will go over some of the development updates.
Thanks, Logan. So, guys, we have a couple of development updates prepared for us. If you haven't been following the Telegram channel, if you have been following it, then you can see that we pushed the stable release of the browser and Electron dApp. It has we have changed a little bit the way in which the day token check is performed. There have been a couple of stability and security fixes to the Electron dApp. And of course, a small fix to the scheduling estimation app. You can find all of these links on our GitHub page, and of course on app.chronology.network and on all of the Electron apps. I'll hand it back to you, Logan.
Thanks, Joseph. So the big announcement here is that we're taking the RC off of the end. RC meant research candidate, which meant that we were still kind of testing the release and we weren't entirely confident, but now we've completely taken off the RC. So this is the stable release. We're ready to put it in the wild, ready for people to start using it, and yeah. So this is this is it.
And I want to thank the community. I want to thank you guys for being very responsive, for testing all of this, reporting any issues that you find. This helps us a lot, and hopefully you guys will continue doing this as we go through all of the stable releases as well.
Just want to jump in, guys, just to make it clear, it doesn't really mean that we just stop working on that. It's still, we have like a bunch of ideas, and definitely the DApp and the time nodes, this technology gonna be reused in any other future protocols that we're gonna build. So this is a huge investment for us, and we obviously really committed into this. And yeah, there is like the backlog of the ideas, features, and all that stuff is like ever growing. So I think everyone should be excited for things that's yet to come here. Okay, guys, continue, please.
All right, so next, what I'll do is I'll show you how to download the time node and run the time node for yourself. So if anyone has a time node running currently, could you put a 1 in the chat? And if anyone has ever wanted to run a time node but has been waiting for this moment to do it, could you put a 2 in the chat? Okay, cool. I'm seeing a lot of 1s, a lot of 2s. Nice. Okay, the community is great. All right, so if you want to run a time node for yourself, the first thing you'll do is go to the Ethereum-Alarm-Clock.com page, which looks like this. So once you get to this page, you'll scroll down until you see the time node section, and there's a button here that says download app. You click that, and it takes you to the GitHub releases download page, and you'll pick the one of these which matches your operating system. So most of the time I use Linux, so I would use this one. Right now I'm using Windows, so I'm going to pick this one. If you use Mac, you would pick the Mac OS one. So I already downloaded it earlier, so I won't download it again. But once you download it, you'll be able to click the icon, and it'll open up to a nice page like this. So the first step to running a time node is creating a new wallet. We recommend to use MyCrypto. You'll create the MyCrypto desktop app to create a new wallet. We kind of push everybody to create a new wallet for the time node so that you don't have a lot of funds in the time node. We're not entirely you might have different security preferences for the majority of your holdings or the majority of your funds, and the time node doesn't require too much funds to actually be held in the wallet to run. So we just encourage everyone to maybe keep their funds in a more secure place, because the time node wallet will be on their computer, and they'll be using it often. So once you create your new wallet, you can hit the select wallet file, find the wallet that you created. I created this one a couple of days ago, so I'm going to use that. And then you click unlock. And the next step is to sign with the wallet that you have 333-day, or the wallet that is a time mint. So you'll need to sign this message here. It's the format of it is timenode : the address of your wallet that you created, and that will be the time node. So I use the MyCrypto desktop app to do signing. So I signed it earlier here, and I already have this ready. But if you need to sign it, it's really easy. You just copy and paste this info, and then you click sign message, and you'll get this back. So I'll copy this, paste it here, click verify. It'll ask me for the password that I used when I created the wallet. and then I'll unlock. So it drops you into the Timenode dashboard. So right now the Timenode isn't running. You see that it says it's stopped. The Timenode dashboard shows you a lot of interesting things, like how much profit the Timenode has made. It'll show you what are the bounties it has gotten and how much it is used in the costs. You'll see that the bounties will be higher than the costs if everything is going right. You'll also see that the balance of your Timenode here, and you'll see the amount of day that you have in the wallet that you use to sign with. So this is not the same as your Timenode wallet. This is the wallet that you use to sign with. We just show the balance right there. So to run a Timenode, you don't need to have a ton of Ether. That might change in the future, depending on the volume of transactions. But for right now, 0.15 Ether would be okay. So once you send some Ether to your Timenode, you can start it using this button here. And this will switch to say your Timenode is running. And you'll see that if there's transactions coming up, your Timenode will start discovering those, and you'll see how many it discovers down here. So if you want to know more about what your Timenode is doing, you can look into the logs. This contains general information about what's happening. So you can see it's discovered a few scheduled transactions, and but we don't have much detail. So let's look into some of the more detailed stuff. And we can see, for example, here that this transaction is currently in the freeze period, so nothing can be done there. But if the Timenode claims or executes, this is where we can look to see exactly what it did. So you might have noticed on this page that we have this warning. It says that we are not in claiming mode, and then it gives a link to this blog post that tells us more about it. I won't go into too much detail about the information in that blog post, but I'll show you guys how to turn on the claiming mode here. So you navigate to the settings tab, you click on for the claiming mode. You can leave these blank and they'll stick to the defaults. Again, if you want to experiment with these economic strategies, you can look into the blog post, and then you hit save, confirm with your password. You can see that the Timenode restarts and you're now in claiming mode. So this Timenode will start claiming any transactions it can.
I would like to also mention that the transaction that the Timenode had discovered, this is the exact transaction that I had scheduled a bit earlier. So this is pretty cool.
Yeah, so when that transaction is executed, whichever Timenode executes, it might not be this one, because we can look up here and see there's 15 Timenodes right now active. So I know probably some people on the call on this live stream now, some of your Timenodes are probably here. So whichever Timenode executes that transaction, will actually get the bounty that Joseph put earlier. So that's pretty cool. All right, so let me jump back to the slides. And now we can open it up to Q&A. So if anyone has a question, post it into the question box. I think Connor will join us for the Q&A if you'd like, and we'll answer your questions.
Yeah, I think we have a question for Connor, actually. So one of the community members asked, what kind of plans do you get for the marketing, things for MyCrypto? Because he claims that still my Ether wallet might be much more popular and so on. So do you have any answer for that, Connor?
Yeah, sure. It's no secret that that my Ether wallet does have a higher user base at the moment. That's just what's going to happen when you fork a project and the other still has name recognition, as well as most of the functionality. I don't think we've had a suitable chance to differentiate ourselves quite yet. I think that in the coming months we'll be able to prove ourselves more in that regard. but I can speak to the ideals of the short-term future of MyCrypto. Ever since I've come on a couple of months ago, one of my initial priorities was to really increase the level of organization that we have in our little startup. Whereas before we were definitely more focused on getting that MVP out, on getting that functionality out there as quickly as possible so that we can have that community building. Now we're starting to really hunker down. We're starting to do things more like bigger companies are in terms of process management, etc. And the big direction that I'm pushing for here is to make our platform as accessible as possible, so that people with disabilities, etc., can use our product as well as anybody else. I don't think that hasn't been as big of a priority for a lot of our competitors up to this point. So that's a big one. We definitely want to position ourselves as more of an ecosystem than an individual tool. So by integrating our knowledge base and Etherscam DB into like one big organization, we also want to set ourselves up to be as adaptable as possible, so that when the market does begin to pick up again and we start to see these new ideas rolling in, we're able to take advantage of that as soon as possible. The big strength of MyCrypto has always been community involvement. We're very fortunate to have a bunch of input from very talented developers, both on the UI dev side of things, as well as the cryptocurrency side of things. So you can see over the next few months an improvement in accessibility, an improvement in what the site and the app look like, and in general, setting ourselves up for success in the future to capitalize on whatever the next big thing in Ethereum is.
Oh, thank you. That's a hell of an answer. So I see, like, it's gonna be super cool for MyCrypto in the future. We really are excited about that. Okay, so we have another question. I think that's very, the question that appears every now and then. So Carlo actually is asking, would you like to ask if you will integrate the claiming mechanism based on the day tokens? Yeah, I'm gonna take this question. So guys, we are working on that for quite a long, and essentially what we, based on our research, is that this kind of problem to be solved efficiently, we mean like it doesn't really pose any extra cost in the gas price, gas, amount, etc., is very similar to like running the proof of stake blockchain on your own. And if you are following what's happening in Ethereum, you know that essentially the next consensus algorithm, Casper, is a proof of stake, and it's not easy at all. So we kind of, it's obviously not at that scale, and as the Ethereum Foundation is working on, but there are actually very similar problems that we would need to face. So yes, it does take some good amount of time for us to get there and understand. So yes, we're working on that. I can't really put any exact date, because it's like it's a very hard problem essentially to be solved. So hopefully.
Also, quick clarification. So that's also all in regards to Chronos. So the claiming mechanism with day would be something in the Chronos, not in the alarm clock.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. So we definitely. So I know you know that we in parallel to Ethereum Alarm Clock, we're working on a Chronos protocol, which is a second generation scheduling protocol. It's completely different, and yes, we use and we research how to use tokens to bring better crypto economics into the protocol. So they're gonna be used for staking, and obviously you might lose day tokens if you just misbehave or you don't execute, etc. So yeah, that's work in progress, definitely.
So it looks like Marcelo asked a question, and this is actually something that's good to talk about. So Marcelo says that his Timenode has just claimed his first transaction, but it shows 0 bounties and 0.04053 ETH as a cost. So right now the time node shows more costs than bounties. So he's wondering why this is. And so so the reason why that is because when a time node claims a transaction, they have to send the required deposit, and they have to pay the gas costs for that transaction ahead of time. So the time node kind of calculates before it does this how much the bounty will be when that transaction is executed, and depending on if the bounty will be higher than the cost, it'll send that transaction. But
Yeah.
before the execution happens, so before the bounty actually gets paid, the time node has kind of paid a cost first on the expecting for the bounty to come later. So once that transaction gets executed, you'll see that the bounty will be higher than the cost.
Yes, and just one thing to add. Actually, this is a latest change that we applied, and maybe wasn't really communicated well. But essentially, you see that this is 0.04053, and actually this 04 is the deposit that Joseph asked you during the claiming to put, right? So now, just to better have the better overview of the balance at any given time, we actually, when you claim, we put the deposit as a temporary cost. So if your time node is going to execute this transaction, this deposit is go back to you. So the reward will be higher, and the total amount, the total bounty will be positive.
Okay. So it looks like that's about all the questions. Connor, is there anything you want to add before we close out?
Yeah, I just wanted to express my thanks to the ChronoLogic team. It's been a real dream working with you guys. Look forward to working with you further, integrating any further changes you have, and I look forward to MyCrypto, establishing itself even further as its own entity. So tools like the one you provided are definitely a pathway for doing so. So just thanks from our entire team.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to thank you to you, Connor, and your whole team as well. As a kind of background history thing, some of you might know, we talked about that in the previous live streams. We actually, met with Taylor of MyCrypto in Paris. It was in the spring, I think April, and then we started discussing the potential integration, and how can we cooperate, and so on and so forth. Obviously, it takes some time to get there, but we finally there, and we're very excited. And we also, are very curious how MyCrypto is going to evolve, because the plans are really tremendous. And good luck, guys. We all in.
Yep,
Okay.
I agree.
So yeah, thank you so much, guys. We see each other on the next live stream. So again, thank you and take care.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
Have a wonderful day, everybody. Nice to meet everyone.
Thanks, everyone.